Billy Napier is one of the most hot and cold coaches in the entire country.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Monday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Today's episode of Locked On Gators is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. And today we're talking about The Athletic putting out a tiered list ranking college football coaches, and they had specific, like a specific order in which they ranked coaches, but I don't think that was so much the important part. I think the more important part is strictly the tier. Just the tier. That's it. And for Florida and Billy Napier was put in tier 5, which is the up and down tier. And this list is accumulated with, as they phrase it, everything from resume to resources to longevity and more. And the and more is the fun part, because that's really just saying like, oh, no matter what you say to dispute it, there's so many factors in this that you just can't dispute it, right? That's what they try to do. We're gonna counter argue that, and we're gonna try to dispute it. I will also say that there is the additional safety blanket or security blanket for The Athletic here, because they did also say that they spoke to coaches and agents about these rankings, or at least they spoke to coaches and agents to help them figure out these rankings. But agents weren't allowed to comment on coaches that they represent. So Billy Napier's agent can't comment on Billy Napier. I don't know who's a random coach. Brett Bielema's agent can't comment on Brett Bielema. Things like that. Jed Fish's agent can't comment on Jed Fish. So there's that. But Billy Napier was put in the up and down tier. And I will say, actually, all of the tiers are tier 1, multi-time champs. Tier 2, established winners. Tier 3, high-level consistency. Tier 4, rising stars and steady hands. Tier 5, up and down. Tier 6, show me seasons ahead. Tier 7, works in progress. Tier 8, hottest seats and freshest faces. Tier 5 of hot and cold, or up and down, whatever you want to talk about it, is the largest list, it looks like, at least. And like, it's not that Billy Napier shouldn't be on this list, right? Like, it's not that he shouldn't be in that section. Because when you look at Billy Napier's entire coaching career at Florida, at least, up and down is probably the best way to describe it, right? I mean, you look at 2024, and it was the most Jekyll and Hyde season that we've seen in a very long time, right? Where you start with blowout loss against Miami at home, beat Samford, bad loss against Texas A&M, beat Mississippi State, beat UCF, and then you lose to Tennessee because of coaching. Then you beat the crap out of Kentucky. DJ Lagway gets hurt. You lose to Georgia. You lose to Texas A&M in embarrassing fashion. You end the season on a 4-game win streak. That's about as hot as cold as you get, right? 2023. Disgusting loss to Utah on the road to open the season, then win, then loss to Kentucky in embarrassing fashion. Then you beat Vanderbilt, you beat South Carolina, and then you lose the remainder of the season, including a game against an awful Arkansas team, including a Missouri game, which you probably should have won. But, Graham Mertz got hurt, and then you had the 4th and 1,000 that they converted. Then you lose to Florida State in the battle of the backups. Hot and cold, right? You started poorly, you rebounded, and then you finished incredibly cold. Billy Napier's first year at Florida. You beat Utah at home in a game where I think many people didn't expect you had to have a chance. You lost to Kentucky, in which I spoke to Drew Phillips about that game, Kentucky corner at the time, now at the New York Giants, and he was like, yeah, that game is just ugly. It was hideous. It was awful. Then you beat USF, lose to Tennessee. Then you beat Eastern Washington, you beat Missouri, you lose to LSU, you lose to Georgia, you beat A&M, you beat South Carolina, you lose to Vanderbilt, Florida State, and Oregon State. And the last one against Oregon State was especially in embarrassing fashion. So that was brutal. It's been about as hot as cold as you get, right? I do think that saying Billy Napier is up and down, hot and cold, very fair, right? And past success matters here. In all these rankings, past success matters here. Billy Napier's 19-19. You don't get more hot and cold than you don't get more balance than 19-19. And they've said that, past success matters. So perhaps some of what Billy Napier did at Louisiana matters for these rankings. However, I do believe that they weighed recent results, whether success or failure, more heavily than what you did at, like if you're Billy Napier, your past 3 years at Florida, probably way more on this list or on these rankings than your 4 years at Louisiana did, right? Which you were very successful. You found a ton of success. You won a ton of games. You were consistently competitive in the conference. However, does that really matter when we're talking about the kind of coach you are today? Also important to note that these rankings very openly say that they aren't accounting for future success. And while that might be applicable for Billy Napier when we talk about what this team can do this year, it's also applicable for some of the other coaches that are in Billy Napier's tier, Baylor's, and alphabetical order, Baylor's Dave Aranda, which again, this is the up and down, hot and cold tier. Baylor's Dave Aranda, Syracuse's Fran Brown, Toledo's Jason Candle. If you thought I wasn't going to mention Toledo, you're out of your mind. Duke's Manny Diaz, Louisiana's Michael Desormeaux, who replaced Billy Napier at Louisiana when Billy came to Florida. Georgia Tech's Brent Key, which personally I believe he should be in the up-and-coming category. We're not going to talk about him later on, but just want to throw that out there. Michigan's Sharon Moore, and Texas Tech's Joey McGuire, which I thought Joey McGuire would be in the up-and-coming new faces category, but I also think that they said in this, again, that they are considering resources. And Texas Tech has, well, not so quietly, been heavily investing resources in building their roster. So Billy Napier listed as one of the most up and down, hot and cold coaches in the country. And as far as his 2025 schedule goes, well, a lot of names on this list are in pretty good position. We'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. If you're trying to stay on top of your routine, whether that's workouts, long days on campus, or staying focused through back-to-back classes, hydration is where it all starts, and that's where Drip Drop comes in. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. And I tell you this, I've not been shy. About a month ago, I got my wisdom teeth taken out. It was tough to drink. It was annoying to drink. So I would drink Drip Drop because I needed to stay hydrated, and it was annoying to drink. So I was drinking less fluids. So Drip Drop helped me out a ton there. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first order. Just head to dripdrop.com. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits even harder for football season. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free, whether it's in the podcast and on YouTube. And the Florida Gators schedule, like it's no surprise to anybody that the Florida Gators schedule in 2025 is pretty rough, right? I think most people acknowledge that, hey, not an easy schedule. Personally, I think it's an easier schedule than 2024, despite the more road games. I think that the teams are a bit worse, and I think that adds up over time. Some teams took significant step backs, in my opinion. So I think the schedule is a bit easier than last year. However, the coaches are still the coaches, right? If you're an elite coach and your roster looks a little down this year, you're still an elite coach. Especially when we're talking about a list that includes resources available to the coaches. Okay? So when we talk about this list, the first tier is multi-time champs, okay? There are 2 coaches on that list. Dabo Swinney at Clemson. Georgia's Kirby Smart. So that is, and the order in which we're talking about who's on Florida's schedule is in the order of what tier they're in. And then alphabetical. So Georgia's Kirby Smart, obviously in tier 1 because it's multi-time champs, and he's earned that, right? Like I hate Kirby. I'm not going to say that he's not a top tier coach in college football. And if you do say that, you're really not helping your case for having a valid opinion, right? Second tier is established winners. There you have LSU's Brian Kelly, who I don't like Brian Kelly. I do think that he's overrated. However, we're talking about a guy that won a ton of games at Notre Dame pretty consistently. He had some down years, and his down years were still 8 wins, which is Billy Napier's best year, right? So some down years, and even, a BCS at the time, championship loss. Like, he made it. Like, sure, he didn't win it, but he made it, and that's more than a lot of teams can say and a lot of coaches can say. So, not going to fault him for that so much. Steve Sarkisian, sure, established winners. 1 year in the SEC, made the SEC championship, lost it, but made it. And then a few years in the Big 12 in which he didn't win the Big 12 championship, which is weird to say established winner, but he wins a lot of games. It's just, winning a big one would help your case quite a bit. But Brian Kelly and Steve Sarkisian are in tier 2, established winners. Tier 3 is high level consistency. If you don't remember from last segment, I'm going to be honest. I don't know how they define high level consistency, but sure. First off is Mario Cristobal from Miami, which I think there's sure plenty of cases for people to say that they disagree with high level consistency. However, you won 10 games last year. Pac-12 at least appearance with Oregon in his last year, I believe. Couple strong years at Oregon, right? He wasn't there long, but in his 5 years, he had 3 seasons with 9 or more wins, 2 with 10 or more wins. So, sure, I'll give it to you. I don't count Florida International at all. That was well over a decade ago at this point, so I'm not going to include that at all. Miami, I wouldn't say high level consistency. One game, sure, but they also got absolutely annihilated in times where they probably shouldn't have and folded games they probably shouldn't have. Also, you have Josh Heupel in the high-level consistency ranking, which I'm not going to dispute that one at all. I don't think Heupel's an amazing coach, but I will say that in his 4 years at Tennessee, he's won, 7, 10, 8 or 9, and 11? Like, tough to dispute that that's high-level consistency, right? Like, you've been here for 4 years. You've won a lot of games in all those 4 years. It makes a lot of sense. Lane Kiffin is also in this list, which isn't surprising. He's been at Ole Miss for 5 years. 5 years. And they've won 10 games 3 times. Considering that you're doing that at Ole Miss, absolutely. Mike Norvell is also in this high-level consistency ranking, which we're not going to talk about right now because I'm going to talk about that in the next segment where I talk about how awful they were on some of these. Mark Stoops is on this list as well in high-level consistency. He's the last coach on the schedule in the high-level consistency range. I think most people would disagree. I'm on the fence because I think that when you account resources and resume, Mark Stoops, when you take away the first couple of years of his tenure at Kentucky, it's had a lot of pretty good years, right? Like last year was really bad. I get it. But when you consider Kentucky being Kentucky, you've got again, 2013 was his first year. They went 2-10. It was awful. Okay. 2014, 2015, they went 5-7. 2016, 2017, they went 7-6. Lost a bowl game in each one, so 7-5 in the regular season in both of those. 2018, 10 wins. 2019, 8 wins. 2020, 5-6. COVID year, we could chalk it up. 2021, 10 wins. 2022, 2023, 7 wins in each of them. Lost in a bowl game, by the way, in both of those as well. And then last year, they won 4 games. Like last year was rough. They've never had high-level consistency, but when we're talking about resources and expectations, it's tough to argue about Mark Stoops there. Tier 4 is Rising Stars and Steady Hands, and Texas A&M's Mike Elko is in there, and I don't really know which category he's supposed to fit in from Rising Stars to Steady Hands just because, well, I feel like he's not a rising star, and he hasn't been there long enough to be a steady hand, so that's interesting. USF's Alex Golesh is in the same tier as Billy Napier, so Tier 5, up and down. Mississippi State, and then there's no one in Tier 6, no one in Tier 7. Mississippi State's Jeff Lebby is in the lowest tier. Tier 8. Hottest seats, freshest faces. And so Jeff Lebby's in there. I don't know if he's considered hottest seats or freshest faces, but I'm not a fan of his, so I'm fine with him being in either one. Florida's schedule in 2025 consists of basically everybody being ranked as a better coach than Billy Napier. Okay? Alex Golesh is in the same tier. Jeff Lebby is below Billy Napier. Long Island is not on the list. Every other coach is listed as better than Billy as a coach. And I will say this. I'm not incredibly high on Billy Napier's in-game coaching ability. But when we're considering resources and resume overall and longevity, I don't think he should be in a lower tier than some of those guys. I'm not necessarily saying that he shouldn't be in Tier 5. I am arguing some of those guys, specifically the guys in Tier 3 high-level consistency, should not be in Tier 3. Okay? And we're going to talk about one when we get back. We're going to talk about a few, but one guy specifically in that tier that I need to talk about because I think it's insane when we get back with Locked On Gators. Have you ever decided last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's a game day and you're like, it's a beautiful day. We got a great pitching matchup going on. That's where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch. Just saying, Gametime makes it all possible. Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually go down the closer that you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and show Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account with code Locked On College for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day, we are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And we're going to wrap up talking about some of the names on this list. How in the hell is Mike Norvell in the high-level consistency tier? What? What the hell are we talking about here? I don't get it. Congratulations, Mike Norvell. And look, I will say this in the interest of full disclosure. I have met Mike Norvell. He has been nothing but kind in the times that I've met him. He seems fine. Again, he was pretty cool when I met him. I'll say this regardless. What the hell? I just don't get it. Congratulations on 2 seasons of 10 wins and 13 wins. You know what else he's done in his time at Florida State? His first year, they went 3-6 in 2020. And look, I get it. It was the COVID year. Everyone wants to write everything off about the COVID year and say, hey, well, crazy things happened in the COVID year. You know what else happened in the COVID year? Everybody had to deal with COVID. If you didn't, and I'm not even getting into the political conversation surrounding COVID, but I am going to get into the conversation of everyone had to deal with it. I had to deal with it. You had to deal with it. Mike Norvell at Florida State had to deal with it. Florida had to deal with it. They didn't have to deal with Mike Norvell because they ducked that one, but everybody had to deal with COVID. So I hate the whole it was the COVID year, so anything could have happened. You know what else could have happened? You guys could have done whatever you needed to do to pass these regulations, pass the rules they had in place at the time, have your best roster available, and win some games. But you didn't. So I don't care if it was COVID year. Everybody was on a level playing field. If every week you went into a game and both sides, it was like, hey, your top 5 players can't play on both sides, then guess what? Everyone has to deal with that. I don't care about your excuses. You went 3-6 in 2020. You went 5-7 in 2021. Congratulations on improving. Then you won 10 games in 2022, and you went 10-3, which really 9-3, you won a bowl game. Then in 2023, you went 13-1, not 13-0. You got very conquered by Georgia, 63-3. I don't care who played, who didn't play, what the reasoning was. You got stomped out in front of everybody, and we all loved it, and we all love still talking about it because we hate you and the fan base. Just want to throw that out there. You guys really suck. Just throw that out there. Then they just went 2-10 when you lost all the great players, and everyone went, oh, well, or all the Florida State fans go, whoa, we lost a ton of talent, right? We lost Jordan Travis. We lost Jared Verse. We lost Braden Fisk. We lost Keon Coleman. We lost all these guys. No one cares. Everyone loses talent. Part of being a good head coach is recruiting. You know what Mike Norvell hasn't done at a consistently high level? Recruit, build a roster, win games, just about anything he hasn't done at a high level consistently. How the hell is he on this list in tier 3 high level consistency? I really, really don't get it. It makes no sense to me. Another person in the high level consistency tier is a coach that I truly, really don't respect at all as a coach, especially, but I just don't respect at all. Hugh Freeze is also in the high level consistency tier. And like, which by the way, he won 6 games in his first year at Auburn. He won 5 games in his second year at Auburn. Lost a bowl game in his first year. Lost to New Mexico State at one. Like, I don't know how to put this. Whoever put this list together for the Athletic, Hugh Freeze is in the high level consistency tier. So I don't know what you were smoking when you made this list, but just make sure you guys are following the rules here. It's puff, puff, pass, especially when you're going to say something as moronic as Hugh Freeze in the high level consistency tier. That's not even legal stuff you're smoking. Like, that is just ridiculous. That's the most insane thing I've seen. And I've seen a lot of insane things. All right, just want to throw that out there. It's ridiculous. The last coach that we're talking about, don't worry, this one's positive. Fran Brown. Fran Brown is in the up and down tier. And I don't really see him as an up and down coach. Because look, he's still let's get that out of the way. He's a very young head coach, right? You know what he's done as a head coach? He won 10 games in his first year at Syracuse. Up and down? That's absolutely in the rising stars tier. He won 10 games in year 1 at Syracuse. In no world is that up and down. Again, I don't know what you guys are smoking, but remember the rules. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free, whether it's the podcast and on YouTube. We will be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work on New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.